Who was Uriah Rennie?
My inspiration and my role model.
Really good referee, but a really great human being.
Calm.
Big personality, great icon.
His career and his life has inspired many.
He was my big brother.
Uriah Rennie is and remains the epitome of strength through adversity.
Here's one man who's breaking down a few barriers. Uriah Rennie, the Football League's only black referee. He's as fit as a fiddle, a former kickboxer who trains at the leisure centre he now runs in Sheffield.
I think he, as a young boy, fancied taking up the whistle. He was also, I think, a pretty good athlete in his own right and played a number of sports. The fact that he progressed to be the first ever black referee at the top level, I think, illustrates just how good a referee he was.
We've been friends for some years. Must be about 10, 15. I first met Uriah at Kiel on a referees conference. I thought, what a nice man. And that's one thing you could always say. The best ref you could ever see.
I didn't realise that was his first game. At Derby v Wimbledon, the lights went out and he had this terrible situation where in them days we had to liaise with everybody and decide, and he decided, well, the players can wait 30 minutes if nothing happens, and the lights didn't come back on. So his first game was abandoned. Much as it's a disappointment you didn't get through it, and I say that, you know, because you want to, I suppose it gave him a great background because you know, he's experienced something in his very first game. To be a referee, you prepare 100% positively, and you've got a 95% chance of getting through. There's always that 5% variable, and his first game, he had the 5% variable because he could have never prepared for that.
What were your first impressions of him?
Well, when I first met him, I just thought what a lovely guy he was. You know, he was very humble, he was quiet, he was peaceful, very, very calm. I was a really good athlete, believe it or not, when I was a ref, and so was Uri. And then he got on the Premier League and he trained with us and came to camp with us and he roomed with me for quite a lot of times.
I'm aware of the game and I'm aware of my responsibilities. I'm aware how important it is. I'll be trying to talk, cajole the players, say hello to them, you know, sort of have a laugh if they can. If they do something well, then I will tell them.
I remember seeing him for the first time. I remember being captivated by the fact that English football's top division, where I'd been watching legendary strikers, midfielders, defenders, the goalkeepers, suddenly had a referee who was black.
Interesting that you never see referees, black referees, so it was like, so where's he come from?
Uriah Rennie is today's referee.
To put into context why that was so captivating for me was because we were still not fully out of an era where if somebody doing a high profile job was black, there was that joy.
He was a trailblazer, and then you say why, and the reason would be because growing up we had never seen anyone in a black official kit taking control of a game, in charge of a game.
He's a Premiership referee, but together they are the Football Task Force.
It's the first official report from the Football Task Force, and hard-hitting with it, recommending red cards for any player making racist comments on the field. Its chairman also wants racist abuse by spectators to be made a criminal offence.
And if you think about the period within which Uriah Rennie refereed, what he must have heard, what he must have been subjected to.
I don't know what kind of abuse he might have received, and I've no doubt there would be a lot, and we know officials take a lot of abuse anyway.
You can only imagine the impact that it would have had on him. So when people talk about the number of games that Uriah Rennie officiated, you're talking about the number of times he went into that beer pit and listened to those criticisms, which very often, almost always I would suggest, were accompanied by racial slurs. were accompanied by the kind of thing for which players now would be suspended for a long time, were accompanied by punditry which would have been demeaning and dismissive.
He was significant in the change of mindset that we had, that we couldn't be leaders, we couldn't be the prominent person in the middle of the pitch.
Uriah was a big personality, not only in physical stature, because he certainly was that as well.
I just loved his style. There wasn't a lot of shouting and hollering. There was a nice way about him in terms of control, and any official would know that that's an art.
Is there any kind of particular refereeing moments for you that stand out for Uriah?
I think the iconic one is the one of him sort of pulling Roy Keane away from an opponent. I think it was at Sunderland, I believe.
Jason McAteer.
Yeah, it was Jason McAteer, yeah. I guess he was the only referee on the list that could do that. Roy would know that, yeah, just let that happen, don't push back. Famously, Uriah had a black belt in martial arts as well. We all knew that. Don't know how that helps you on the field of play, but somehow psychologically, I guess it helped him impose himself.
Uriah was probably the only person that had reacted like that. You know, I'd have had to step back, but he just had this presence to step in between them, and he was so powerful in his own image that it just diffused it.
They knew he was black belt martial arts, they knew his Aikido and kickboxing. Them going up against him, there was only going to be one winner.
My point of view, personal point of view, him being a black belt in martial arts, I think really helped me on the day. You know, if you've got a dad who, you know, doesn't shout but he's got a look, he had that about him. You know, you could tell he was there without him speaking. He grabbed Roy, you know, which I'm sure is not allowed these days, but he manhandled Roy. You know, he kept him at a distance from me. Whatever he said to Roy calmed him down. I don't know what he said, but it obviously worked. I think Roy would have had respect for him as well. You know, some referees would say something to you and you'd brush it off because maybe the respect wasn't there. But for him, you know, if he said stop, you kind of stopped. I think he was probably the perfect man to do it.
When I did my first game on the Premier League and it was Sheffield United against Luton, and Uri goes to watch Sheffield, and you would think it's quite ironic time of another black match official officiating on the Premier League. He didn't want to come to the game, not from not supporting me, but not taking any of their light away from me. So it just goes to show the type of man he was.
It was very influential in my career, and he stood by me, stood by my mum. Starting out as a 14-year-old, I thought, look, he can do it. One day I can get that far. And I remember the first time I met him, I was just in awe. You're Uriah Rennie, like, wow, you're shaking my hand.
Is this going to be easier than refereeing a Premiership match and running for 90 minutes?
Someone said I'm a better runner than a referee.
I'd only watched him on TV initially. 3 years ago, I decided to put on an event to raise funds for Black and Asian referees. I was able to make contact with Uriah and explain to him my vision. He was an inspirational role model, and that's all we can hope for. We get more role models like him. Going to his funeral was amazing because it showed me that he was more than just a PGMO referee. He was a community man.
Uriah loved Sheffield and Sheffield loved Uriah. He made a huge contribution to that city, not just in football. Not long before he sadly passed, he'd been made the Chancellor of Sheffield Hallam University, was thoroughly deserved for him.
I always say that I felt like I had imposter syndrome. I felt like, do I deserve to be here? And I got a chance to operate in the Premier League, and you see this 15 years, wow. I can't now let Uriah down.
Sam Allison's refereed on the Premier League. Akil is officiating on the Premier League. Whilst we see people who represent what Uri did, that's always a sign that Uri was the first to do it. So he opened that door for us. And I think it's just our duty now to maintain that the door is still left open.
BAMREF have highlighted to us very acutely the issue that exists. A lot of their focus is about ensuring that that conversation is ongoing, that we're not taking our foot off the gas. There's an ongoing drive collectively to try to change the culture that exists.
I've been associated with BAMREF now for the last 4 years and probably a little while longer. There are still things where we've got to protect what we have and then we've got to improve on what we have.
You have to see it to be it. So if you can't see it, you can't be it.
Uriah still is an inspiration because he embodies the North Star, what can be done.
He showed us that it was possible, and because he showed us it was possible, we now believe that we can do it.
We have Martin Luther Kings, we have Malcolm X, we can keep ringing them out, Muhammad Ali, but where's your refereeing icon? Where is it? Uriah Rennie.
his spirit will live on in my life for as long as I'm alive as well.
Uriah Rennie was the first, but not the only.